Hello from London in the year 2021. I hope wherever and whenever you find yourself in front of this message, you are well in your heart and soul. And if you find yourself at the crossroad in your life, where, as Dante Alighieri says, in the middle of the woods where the road is truly lost, may this poem help you discover the direction to move to next. This is a poem by one of my favorite poets, David Whyte, and it is called Start Close In. And I find it is not just a poem, but a practice of connecting with the deeper layers in our body, in our heart, in our mind, in our soul, often through meditative or movement practice. Before we can begin a new chapter, a new movement in our life, start close in. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first step. Close in. The step you don't want to take. The step you don't want to take. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Take the first new step, the first fresh step, the step that arises from the deepest layers of your being, the step you probably don't want to take, but know that you must. Start with the ground that you know, the ground beneath your feet, your own way to begin. Your own way to begin. Where else can we begin except for where we are? And where we are is where we find our body, where we find ourselves in the circumstances of our life. Starting with your feet is a great meditative pointer, because connecting with our body, with the presence of the earth, brings us in pure presence in an instant. While we cannot know or trust all the thoughts and emotions that flow in our being, we can be sure of the contact of our feet and the ground. We can trust that gravity is still operating, and our body can bring us into this present moment where we can begin afresh, as opposed to being wrapped up in the self, the story, the narrative, the past, the possibilities, the old fantasies and dreams, which are great. But if we are moving from one phase of our existence to another, we will need to have some amount of fresh, empty space from which a creative response can arise. For a creative response to arise, we have to learn to let go, even if for a moment, of all the past and the history and the story, so that a fresh thought can come in. A fresh thought is a beautiful, precious thing, and it often emerges somatically through our body. And to do that, first we connect with our feet, with our belly, with our heart space. Start with your own question. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions. Give up on other people's questions. Don't let them smother something simple. Don't let them smother something simple. Start with your own question. One of the hardest things in life is to discover your own question, your own thought, which is arising from your own inner context. The second most important and challenging thing in this journey is to not let the society, the culture, the media, and all the other influences of the world overtake, hijack, or suppress that original question that has arisen from your heart, from your body, from starting close in. The, the stream of that voice, of the inner voice, is very subtle, very delicate, and to be able to hear it, we require silence, we require empty space, we require having what I may call a vessel, a crucible where we can listen to that voice. For some of us, it might be in the company of a friend, a teacher. For others, it might be in the woods. For some, it might be an art form like journaling or making music where we are able to connect with that inner voice and express what is the emergent, liminal, subtle, and delicate question. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions, on their definitions of happiness, joy, success. Ask yourself, what is it that I want? What is the closest thing to myself? What feels like most myself? The question that Christopher Alexander, a great architect, asks. Which of these spaces are closest to the mirror of my own self? Which of these choices, which of these relationships, which of these contributions, careers are most closest to the core image of myself? With that sensibility, with that question, we can move forward, connecting to our own body. We can ask a simple question, our question, not someone else's, not a question of someone we admire or someone great, but our question that has full resonance in our own heart and body. To hear another's voice, to hear another's voice, follow your own voice. Wait. Wait until that voice becomes an intimate, private ear that can really listen to another. And here David is talking about the art of truly listening before we can listen to someone else. First, we have to learn to listen to our own inner voice. Often, when someone is unable to be in silence and listen to their own soul, as it were, in an interaction with another, they are still thinking about the responses that they may want to give. In order to truly, unconditionally, openly listen to someone else, one has to have heard all that is there in one's own inner being. Without having heard that, we are constantly interrupted in the dialogue. And if one is still operating with other people's questions, one is still churning through the thoughts from the media, from the Hollywood and Disney movies, from a lot of the conversations from news, one is unable to focus on what is truly, truly simple and important, that question that is truly intimate and a mirror of one's own self. Start right now. Start right now. Take a small step you can call your own. A step that you can call your own. Don't follow someone else's heroics, even if they are great. We often get lost by trying to replicate the heroes in the myths in the society rather than listening and following our own curiosity, our own love, our own sense of feeling in the body. Be humble and focused. Don't mistake that other for your own. Humility is a prerequisite to opening up. Without being humble, we believe we know. And if we know, then that's really helpful in generating confidence, energy, and action in the world. But it prevents us from opening to the new question. It prevents us from taking in new possibilities and changing direction. This is one of the reasons you may often observe people who are uncomfortable with silence are trying to fill it with either talking or acting, because there is this sense of not allowing the possibility of change, which can emerge in that empty silence, in not being busy. Start, close in, don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first step. Close in the step that you don't want to take, the step that you don't want to take. The videos that I am making here are actually a representation of that first step that I'm taking, because I am in front of an opening, in front of a middle way, and it would be not appropriate for me to talk of starting closing without following my own advice. Reminds me of the philosopher who said wisdom is the ability to follow your own advice. I hope wherever you are, as you finish listening to this, you can take a few moments of silence, breath, of contact with your heart, with your belly, with the feet on the floor. And from that point, allow that new question to emerge, which can take you to the next elegant step in your adventure. May you be well. Much love.